contest with the shell pickers and crab pickers and fishers, ladies here of Syrian. So don't think that you had been abducted to another planet. But this is the planet mangrove planet. So you are invited to see it here. First of all, let's give a big hand to those ladies. They have changed their life with CEST initiative to make this integration with the peoples, the population that live it, the inhabitants of.
Hi guys, I'm here in Pernambuco in the northern part of Brazil. We're in a small community and I'm going to tell you guys about community-based tourism. This is a fishing community. Behind me you see the mangroves, and what you just saw is a little introduction to the people who go into the mangroves to pick oysters, crabs and so on, and then actually take the tourists to see how they do it, and then also will show us how they do it. So keep posted.
Not a motorboat. It's a boat that's propelled.
So the mangroves, as we talked about, are actually a really important ecosystem. Unfortunately, in tourism development up to now, they usually took them out because they thought they were ugly looking. But they're really important because 90% of the species of fish or wildlife in the ocean actually come here to breed. And so it's a big breeding ground for young fish, right, because it's safe and protected, and then they go out. And it's also why these women here can go and get oysters, fish, crabs, all of that in the mangroves. But back to community-based tourism. I will show you guys what they're doing with that and how they're using this resource to actually do a tourist activity. These mangroves, before we go back to the community, are really also coastal protection. So in a lot of the low-lying islands, you can imagine that if we didn't have the mangroves, if there's a hurricane, the island would wash away, right? So they're really important for coastal protection, land protection. They're also important, like I said, for fish species, and they're important also to cleanse the water. So you'll see it's kind of murky, muddy. In Florida, we have a lot of mangroves too, so you guys probably have seen them. But they're really important to also cleanse the water and kind of rebuild it.
Mas aqui a gente tem. Esse é o aratu. Ah, esse é o aratu. Aratu é o vermelho, né? Isso, o vermelho.
So there was just a crab and there's oysters there as well. So there's a lot of wildlife in here. So she was just showing me one of the crabs, the little small red crabs that are here. So they have a really good eye for these things, right? But that is right here going into the mangroves. So she's showing one of the crabs that they're getting here in the bucket. Legal. So as I walk back to where the staging area is, these people actually live here. They were trained to do this tour. They've already received 9 different groups. We're here with the Brazilian organization called SESC, which does tourism and leisure, and actually they did a collaboration with this community to offer this tour. So community-based tourism, I already mentioned it, right? So as we work with communities, it's really important to involve them in tourism development, because if they don't benefit, if they don't get anything from tourism, then why are we offering tourism, right? It shouldn't just benefit the tourists. And the second thing that we talked about, if we want to preserve the mangroves, the ecosystems, we talked about the national parks in Africa, the participation of communities is really, really important. And it also enriches the tourists, right? As you see, this interaction between locals and the tourists is really, really amazing, right? But unfortunately, community-based tourism, which is actually tourism that is operated, owned, and made by the community, so it's basically from the bottom up instead of top down, right, actually fails a lot of the time. And why does it fail? Think about a small community as the one that I'm in, right? The first problem is access. How is a community like this gonna have access to the tourist production system, right? So this is really hard. So unless you have a big player, like here in this case ZESC, who is connecting them to the tourism system, it's really tough for this community to actually get out there. So that's one thing. The second thing is financial viability, right? So if they just tried to live from tourism alone, they would have to do a lot of tours, a lot of tourism, right? And that really is not financially viable to do that. So this community still lives, you guys can still see the people around there in the mangroves, they still live from actually fishing and selling that, right? So that's amazing. And then the third one is governance. So a lot of times when you have community-based tourism, there's issues with governance because the community doesn't really have the skills. So there needs to be a lot of times an NGO, somebody coming in to actually help set up. But then once they pull out, there's issues in terms of who's going to take over. There could also be issues if not everybody profits equally. We talked about this, right? So if you have only some families who profit and others not, there might be problems, political problems in the community itself, right? Or they don't have the skills. So the governance is a big aspect as well. This is why we say that 80% of community-based tourism fails. So that's a big one. Now this community is different because people don't stay here. You just come to do the experience and you go. So I actually think this project is going to be pretty successful. So I'll keep you guys posted. So here they set up a table of some of their specialties with coconuts, some of the crabs that we saw in the mangroves, the oysters that they prepare. They show the tourists how to prepare it and they also sell it. So again, it's another form of income for them. Our little aspect of community-based tourism involving the local community, that it's really important that not just the tourist benefits from tourism, but also local people, right, as we mentioned, so that we can protect the environment and actually bring benefits to everybody. See you guys later. Have a good one. Ciao.